We went over on the Nets because, of course,
Yeah.
we're going to the New York Knicks now. Not any less dramatic. Key free agents include Mitchell Robinson. He's unrestricted, but they have full bird rights. And for anyone who cares, Ryan Arcidiacono is also a free agent. Their notable non-guarantees, Taj Gibson, his salary doesn't become guaranteed until January 7th, 2023, but they're going to waive him because we already know what they're doing at this point. Their notable extension candidates include RJ Barrett and Cam Reddish. They have no notable trade exceptions. Their best spending tool as of now, I'm just assuming they waive Taj Gibson. They're going to be in that $18 million cap space range. If they want more, that's where the Cam Reddish salary dumps come in. So their best spending tool is going to be cap space. They made that clear on draft night. I have listed as their biggest needs / priorities, and this is to jumpstart the larger conversation, is a fucking direction, is what I literally have. Before I throw it to you, I would just like to say, I received a lot of criticism for what I wrote and what I said after the Knicks trade stuff. If you like the idea of what they did in a vacuum, getting 3 conditional firsts for that 1 first, fine. Like I still would have, I liked Ousmane Dieng. I actually would have picked him. I also like Doc Bashi. I thought he would have been a good fit. Fine. That's actually not what I'm criticizing. I'm not even technically criticizing that they definitely overpaid to salary dump Kemba Walker. And some people will say, well, if that's what it cost to salary dump Kemba Walker, they didn't overpay that. Fine, waive him. It was 1 season, and you're clearly not planning to operate like a salary cap team again anytime soon if you're making a run at Jalen Brunson. That $3 million a year, work around it, is where I would have been with that. My larger issue, and it has nothing to do with Jalen Brunson. I promised everyone I've watched Jalen Brunson. I'm excited for the Knicks to go 2-0 against the Utah Jazz every single season. But this is like, he's not the player you pay $25 million when you don't have another star in place already.
Yep.
And that star probably needs to be on the higher end of stardom, because I don't know that you could feel comfortable saying, oh, Drew Holiday's my best player, Jalen Brunson can be my second best player. Like, it can't be someone on it has to be a top 10 guy like Luka. And that's where the criticism is they are consigning themselves to the middle again. I don't care how good Jalen Brunson ends up being, but awesome that you guys want to pay $40 million combined to Derrick Rose and Jalen Brunson next season. That's a hell of a smart thing to do. That's where my criticism is, though. I think Jalen Brunson is fantastic. I think there's something to be said for, yes, he will streamline the development of RJ Barrett on offense. And yes, you know what? Maybe he'll force Julius Randle to act more like a big and a spot-up guy rather than someone who has carte blanche over the offense. My issue is just that you're not at a point, especially after paying Randle and Fournier, where this is what you need to be doing and then jumping through so many hoops to do so. And the final thing I'll say, you can look at it, what they've cost to dump salary and create space so far. They are not done. If you dump Cam Reddish, like a lot of people think they will, and they haven't yet, to their credit, you will have turned the number 19 pick in the 2021 draft into another Charlotte pick that you turned into Cam Reddish, who you then used to create $6 million in cap space. That is poor asset allocation, no matter how you look at it. And it'd be different if the player at the end of this shit-stained rainbow was an actual star. It's not. It's Jalen Brunson, who is... BT, is Jalen Brunson a top 40 player?
I haven't thought long enough to go.
But like, that's
probably.
like, these are not the hoops you jump through to get someone like that, unless is he the Knicks' finishing piece?
No.
Exactly. And you know what? If they don't get him now, this somehow it looks even worse, but it's funnier. So I just wanted to clarify. That's what I'm meaning by a fucking direction. I'm not actually, if that's the trade they made with the pick, and I actually think the pick they gave up, was that the Denver pick to get off Kemba, but you still got the Milwaukee pick. I'd rather have the Milwaukee 2025 pick. It's top 4 protected. Denver was protected until Kingdom Come, or was lottery protected. So I wouldn't have done it because I think there's a chance Washington pick doesn't convey. I think there's less of a chance now that Detroit's pick doesn't convey. That team looks fun in the years to come. I can't even come up with free agent targets for this team outside of Jalen Brunson because I have no idea what the fuck they're doing.
What about Kyrie?
Is that like, if I will give the same criticism, hitching your wagon to Kyrie Irving is just like playing with dynamite now. Now people were in our YouTube comments saying, well, you probably were against them getting Kyrie in the first place and looked how well that turned out. You don't get to backtrack if they go ahead and get Kyrie. Do you know what the actual contingency plan is in place if they don't get Brunson? It's Malcolm fucking Brogdon. There is, it's not a likelihood, but there is a percentage chance, whatever it is, that this all ends with them just getting Malcolm Brogdon from the Indiana Pacers.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like, I'm keeping my eye. Just if things go south with Kyrie and he opts out, like the teams on his sign and trade list are all well over the tax. So most of them are over the apron already or will be. So they can't receive a player in a sign and trade unless they get under. Miami's the one exception there, but I think Woj reported their interest is minimal. And like,
And did you see what Mickey Harrison tweeted out the other day?
no.
It was I can't. This is me summarizing again, but he tweeted out an article where it says proof that the unvaccinated are killing people. He tweeted that out on
Yeah.
Saturday. So this is like post Kyrie rumors. Like he saw the rumors and he was like, no.
It's the one place in Florida where the unvaccinated are not welcome. Interesting. Yeah, so if he opts out, like the Knicks are his only realistic option other than re-signing with Brooklyn. So it's just something that I'm gonna like, the deadline is Wednesday for the opt-in, opt-out decision. Like if he opts out, I'm thinking like, oh, okay, now the Knicks are in here. But otherwise, I completely agree with you. Like I'm still not sure. I mean, I think Barrett is the closest thing to it, but I still don't know if the Knicks have like anything resembling a star on a championship team.
They don't have a pull star cornerstone right now. I think it's not Julius Randle. I bought the Julius Randle contract year, extension year, whatever you want to call it. I bought into it. I still think he can be better than he was for most of last season. It's not him. I'm not willing to rule out RJ Barrett, but I do think at this point, like, it's not 50-50 that RJ Barrett is a top 10 player. Like, it's not.
Right. Yeah, like he could be a co-star or like a strong number 3 on a title team. But yeah, I would be surprised if he
Which is important.
Yeah, of course. Right. Like don't get me wrong. It's important to have good players and especially good young players. But like I almost feels like if they get Brunson, and I mean, this is what it's felt like for the last couple seasons with them. They're like signing all of these guys to mid-tier deals. So it's like, okay, well, if we need, some star out there wants a trade, like, oh, we've got all of these mid-sized contracts, we can easily cobble together something. And I guess now they added these 3 first-round picks. So like, if Donovan Mitchell, if things go to hell in Utah and he wants out, maybe they're in on him. But otherwise, like, yeah, I guess what is the plan here? Like, are you gonna cobble these together for, as you said, Malcolm Brogdon is like the backup plan, or like Mike Conley is the backup plan? I don't know. Like the plan sounds good in theory, but they have yet to execute on it like 3 years into this now.
Yeah, and I think stuff that I would like to see them do. Some people said, well, like you lined out, what if those picks they're planning on running another star? If they go ahead and turn around and trade for DeJounte Murray or Mitchell becomes available, I'll eat my words. Like I'm willing to do that, and I would love to do that. I just don't think I will. They are in a position where they could get creative with what they're doing in free agency since they have cap space. And if Jalen Brunson does go back to Dallas, do you start shopping around the restricted free agent? Well, I don't think there's no one in this market that I think is worth them burning most of their cap space on at once. But can you look at, like, they're a team that could still use wings. Like I would love for them to take a flyer on like an Amir Coffey. I think they're a good landing spot for a Caleb or a Cody Martin. I think they also need shooting in general to just open things up if you want to play Mitchell Robinson and Julius Randle together at the same time. So can you go on the market and find some of that? Because now you have more money than, more than 2/3 of the league to spend at this point. There aren't a ton of good shooters on the open market, but at the same time, like, if Gary Harris wanted to come play for the Knicks, like, yeah, like that's someone who shot well enough from 3 this year. And so that's what I'd be looking to do, is like kind of finding those glue guys to where that could just space the floor. And I'd love to see them do that at the 5. But I think to wrap up the discussion here, they're going to wind up re-signing Mitchell Robinson. You have Jericho Sims there. You want to see what you have in Obi Toppin. I'm just sort of resigned to Tibbs probably wouldn't play a floor spacing big if it was at his disposal anyway. Maybe it's more likely that he's forced to try out Randall and Toppin, which I know will be a defensive disaster, but they need to open up the floor. And by the way, they need to do that even if Jalen Brunson comes to town, because like he's used to operating with a lot more space in Dallas, and the Knicks are going to give him next season if he signs there.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I mean, like Tyus Jones, you mentioned him earlier for Boston. Like if he is not willing to sell for the mid level, and isn't even willing to settle for the non-taxpayer. Like he wants 12, 14 million. He would be somewhat of interest for me. I don't get why Mo Bamba is like not generating any free agent interest, at least in terms of like the lead up to
Because it's
free
clear his
agency.
team is, or are they more likely? Like they still drafted Paolo Banchero, so I don't think that makes them more or less likely to get rid of him. I just thought they were going to get rid of him when they ended up with the top 3 pick.
Right, right, and I would. Yeah, I mean, it seemed to be a lot of people are like expecting them not even to issue him a qualifying offer, which I mean, like, cool, I get it. Like, you've got Wendell Carter and now Paolo, like those are and you've got Jonathan Isaac coming back in theory at some point. But Bamba's good. Like, I feel like he's gonna wind up signing for less than he should and being a huge steal in free agency. So if they lose Mitchell Robinson somehow, that would be another guy I'd be certainly after, because like he's still raw, but the skill set and the upside is really intriguing, especially for a team that needs to be taking some home win swings on talent.
And look, if they don't use their cap space on like a big free agent, like they should absolutely be what teams are looking to dump contracts. If they're not getting Brunson, what are they attaching to it? And then you are reloading your deck. Again, I still wouldn't love the order of operations, because if you miss on Brunson, it means that you dumped Kemba, and I assume they're waiting for the other moves before like to know that they have them. So yeah, it's tough to look ahead to the Knicks offseason, because if you assume they get Brunson, like that's the move.
Right.
And then they could use the room exception after that, and it's awesome. Like, I don't know what that's going to be. I think their biggest position of need, while I'd like to see some sort of shape shifting up front, I really think it's like, can you get some actual properly sized wings in there? I mean, Cam Reddish adds to that if you're going to keep him. It doesn't sound like they're going to keep him, or we don't know if they're going to keep him, or if Tibbs even fucking likes him at this point.
Right. Will Tibbs play him at any point next year?
That was the other point about this trade too. It's like, well, Tibbs wasn't going to play a lottery prospect anyway. And it's like, Tom Thibodeau is not a good enough coach for you to think that way.
Right. Just fire your coach. If your coach is not willing to play a lottery pick, then he shouldn't be your coach.
And that was really my fundamental issue, was like the moves in a vacuum. You can evaluate different ways, the picks that they got versus the ones they gave up. But like the line of thinking, like the overarching thought process that went behind this, or what you're trying to do. It's not even like, oh, we're planning for a Nikola Jokic pursuit 6 years down the line or something ridiculous like that. It's like, it's Jalen Brunson. Like, Jalen Brunson's a really good player. He's not someone that should dictate like this much of how your team is operating.
Right. Yeah. I mean, especially like if the cost to get 11, like to, OKC gave up 3 for future firsts for the 11 pick. Couldn't they have gotten more for 13 than just dumping Kemba's contract and getting a Milwaukee pick that's probably going to be in the 20s?
Yeah, it was so.
Like, the value is off.
They also gave up too. So that's what was so weird. Not a detrimental move on its face, but more of, I do think it was not great value. And look, if that was the cost to dump Kemba Walker, I'm just not dumping Kemba Walker. That's a lot of the refrains here. It's like, well, if they gave that up, do you really think they just took the worst deal? And one, it happened on draft night under pressure. Like, there's a chance there could have been other moves out there, like the Warriors with Andre Iguodala, where that felt like a very like impulsive decision to send him to Memphis with that 2024 pick. I mean, if there weren't, like, hey, here's a novel concept, you didn't need to dump Kemba Walker then.
Right. Or I mean, like, OKC has 20 million in cap space, burning a hole in their pockets that expires on June 30th. Like, you're telling me if you have some good intel, like on June 29th, that you're in line for Brunson at that point, or Kyrie, God forbid, like you wouldn't be able to attach a future first to Alec Burks or Nerlens Noel, or I mean, probably not Kemba because they already went down that road. But
Thunder, because they wouldn't be able to reacquire him for. But it would be well within the window. Yeah, you're right. So,
but it would have been. They could take.
Yeah, for sure.